Hey traders, Chris Capri, Second Skies Trading. So, welcome to the webinar, Trading the US Election, Who Will Win and How to Trade It. My first time doing one of these, so it should be interesting. Okay, so we are live. Hello to everyone here. I hope you're well. Hope you're having a good day wherever you are in the world. So we got some interesting results coming out right now. I kind of want to talk about some of the current results that are happening right now, how things are playing out. And then I'd like to talk about specifically, how you want to be trading it in the different scenarios that could be panning themselves out. So, there's 4 to 5 major scenarios that could play out, and that's going to really determine, how do you want to trade it? Do you want to be trading gold, Bitcoin, treasuries, US dollar? How do you want to play that? What's going on with S&P futures right now? There's a lot going on. Hassan Ahmed, you're in Europe? Oh my God, what time is it where you are? What time is it? It's got to be late. I mean, it's 4:40 here, so it's got to be 1 probably in the morning, maybe 2 a.m. where you are. So, but nice of you to make it. Good to have you here. All right, so real briefly, I'm just going to kind of go over what the current results are. Let's see, that was refreshed at 4:40, so just about a minute ago. And some of it's definitely early. It's 12:40. Okay, so it's pretty late for you. It's definitely early to be calling anything right now. Kentucky and West Virginia have been called for Trump, but that was expected to be. That's not contested at all. The meaty stuff right here, and let's see if we can zoom in a little bit, is Florida, Georgia, Virginia. This is all very meaty. No Republican has ever won the White House since 1924, if I'm correct, while losing Florida. So if Trump loses Florida, and right now they're at 76% reporting, if he loses Florida, that could be the nail in the coffin right there. He would just have to have such an amazing run on the rest of the states. Like he would have to draw the, the inside straight or the flush or he'd have to draw like a monster hand on the rest of the states to do that. So right now we're looking at Joe Biden with 76% reporting. Joe Biden's up 4.6 million to about 4.4.5. So he's up about 2% or 1.5% right now. And yeah, there's going to be some stuff that's coming in after mail-in ballots, but this is a big one right here. And that could have major implications if it ends up getting decided that Joe Biden wins for hey, he's winning. The chances of it going to Trump are slim. Then that would create several trade scenarios, which we're going to talk about here. Some of this other meaty stuff, Georgia, that would be a flip state. It's been red for a while. It's really tight. It's 600 votes right now, which is pretty tight. That's been Republican for years. Virginia is expected to go Joe Biden, and somehow they're calling it already, even though there's only 9% reporting and he's down 38,000 votes. They're calling it. Ohio is a big one here because this is the Midwest. This is one that Trump flipped, if I'm correct, in 2016, and he needs to get this blue wall here of Ohio, Michigan, and Wisconsin. Right now, Joe Biden is killing in Ohio, but it's still very, very early on in this situation. So none of this is really too, expected to be contested or anything like that. Pennsylvania is going to be a big one here. Some of the other big states are obviously going to be Texas, Arizona, Nevada. Those will all be very, very big. So everything else is expected to go pretty hard along blue or red lines. But that's kind of how things are tallying up right now as of, let's see, when was the last? 4:43. So literally just about a minute ago. So that's kind of where we're at right now. Hrishikesh, Kamat, good morning to you from India. Good to have you here from India. Nice to have you. Okay, so first off, let's just kind of cover what's going on in the markets, particularly S&P futures. We'll look at indices. We're going to look at currencies. We're going to look at gold, dollar yen, which I think is a big one right now. TLT, which will be, I'm not sure if that's a 24-hour one. I have to think, is that a 24-hour one? I forget. TLT is the ETF for the treasury bonds, basically in the U.S. And then Qs, which should be closing very, very soon if they aren't already closed. That'll be closing in 15, 30 minutes. That's the NASDAQ ETF. So looking at S&P futures right now, they're up 22 points. And generally, If they're up, that is Wall Street estimating that we're either going to have a very strong blue wave or we're going to have a really strong red wave. Any sort of contested election would create a bad scenario for the markets, especially if it's one of those that's going to be, heavily litigated, like a Bush v. Gore type situation, maybe go to Supreme Court. Any one of those scenarios, and the market should fall heavily. So the fact that they're up already means that overnight traders right now are positioning themselves, Wall Street's positioning themselves towards either a blue wave or a red wave scenario right now. It's not predicting a contested election. So if we were to see that, we would see a very different scenario in the markets, and we'd probably see some selling off. Asia right now is pretty strong. Let's see, which one's open right? Is Hang Seng open? Hang Seng's not open. ASX 200 is open and it's down 0.8%, and the Nikkei is open and it's up 1.5%. So those are the only two that are open right now. Nifty should be opening up soon. In terms of gold, we'll get into that. Hrishikesh come out very soon. We will definitely get into gold. So that's kind of what's going on right now. TLT, which is the ETF, had a pretty big sell-off. Here's where it is. It's right here. This is post-market. So it broke below a major support here at 153, which hasn't been broken since the March base from the coronavirus. So that's very interesting. Bitcoin right now was holding above resistance. It's now tracking back down. And I can see Bitcoin doing best in one of those scenarios where we have a contested election. There's an undermining of U.S. democracy, the situation. If there's a lot of social unrest, people are going to generally flood to gold. They're going to flood to Bitcoin. So I can see Bitcoin doing best in contested elections like scenarios. The longer things go, in terms of the election, like if it's not decided in the first day or the first week, then the longer it goes, the better that is for Bitcoin. And that would kind of be the same thing for gold. So if you're long gold, you would want a contested election. You would want it to be a long drawn out legal process. You'd want it to be as close a race as possible. And you would want there to be a divided situation between the presidency and the Senate, because that means that it'd be hard for the president to pass any bills if he doesn't have a strong, supportive Senate and House underneath him. So that's kind of what's going on with gold. Dollar yen hasn't done a whole lot in the last hour, stuck in a 30 pip range right now. This is the one that I think will be kind of the primary mover, being that it's Asian session right now. So that's what's going on with that. Jennifer Covington, hi, how are you? I'm well. Hope you're the same. Some reason in the office building here, they've turned off the air conditioning. I don't know why. So it's getting a little toasty in here, but I may have to do a striptease on the show here. Other than that, I'm doing well. Okay, so I'm curious if some of my members, I told them I'd be here 5. Like I started a little bit early here. Let's just do the most updated results, 447. Let's see where Florida's going. So he's still up by about 1.4%. Joe Biden is, and Georgia is very tight. That would be a huge flip if that turns blue. And somehow they're still calling Virginia for Joe Biden, even though they're at 13% and he's down about 90,000. These weren't surprising. Ohio, he's dominating Ohio. That's huge. Nothing out of Pennsylvania yet. Okay. So with that being said, let's take a look at various scenarios. And so these are the 4 major scenarios. There is a 5th scenario, but there's 4 major scenarios here that you kind of want to be watching out for. So a Biden win, the Democrats are expected to retain the House. That's unlikely that they're going to lose it. The question is, can they retake the Senate? Right now, the Republicans have control of the Senate. So if Biden wins and the Democrats take control of the Senate, then the Democrats will have the presidency, the Senate, they'll have the House. And that will mean that they'll make it very easy for them to pass any legislation they want. Now, obviously, it'll depend on how much they win the Senate. If the Senate is 50-50, Republicans and Democrat, then the tying vote will go to the vice president. So it'll lean Democrat, but that's only one vote. There's very little room for error to pass legislation. So a situation where Biden wins and it's 50-50 tie, that could create a little bit of nervousness in the markets. If it's like a blowout, 52-48, 53-47, then the chances of there being any sort of obstruction for Biden to pass the legislation that he wants, COVID relief packages, infrastructure bills, anything he wants to pass, it'll be very easy for him to get that through. It should be very easy for him to get that through. So that's one scenario. Another scenario, which is a much more challenging scenario, is Biden wins, but the Republicans maintain control of the Senate. That means the Democrats have the House, they would have the presidency, but they wouldn't have the Senate. And that would make it hard for them to pass legislation. I think there would be a relief package either by the lame duck session in Trump or as soon as Biden takes office. I would suspect that a relief package would be passed before Trump leaves office, if this is the scenario, because it doesn't really benefit Republicans to wait to let the Democrats do it. Then the Democrats get all the credit. And so I think there would be a relief package passed, but it'd be small until the Democrats get in, and then they would get to decide. But the problem is that the Democrats will likely be able to pass a smaller package, not a bigger one, because they would get obstruction from the Republicans. Republicans haven't seemed to care about spending and debt under Donald Trump, but I'm willing to bet, mark my words on this, and this is my prediction, that if the Republicans do keep the Senate, all of a sudden they're going to be throwing their hands in the air. Oh, you're spending too much money. You're spending too much money, the debt. So that would create a much more challenging situation for Biden to pass legislation because he'd get that block in the Senate. So that would create a very interesting trading scenario, and different investments would do better for that. You take the inverse of that, which is Trump wins the presidency, but the Democrats flip control of the Senate. That means they have the House and the Senate, but they don't have the presidency. In that scenario, a relief package will probably be passed, but Trump's not going to be able to get much passed through because he's going to run into the wall of the House and the Senate and the Democrats owning that. So that's going to create a scenario that's going to be very problematic for the country. And it'll be very problematic for the next 4 years because Trump won't be able to do anything that he wants. And the Democrats are going to be able to just kind of block everything that they want. So other than getting basic relief packages out, they will have a lot of leverage. The other final scenario or major scenario is Trump wins and the Republicans maintain control of the Senate. That means that basically Trump will be able to do most of what he wants to do. He won't have as much obstruction. Obviously, he'll have challenges in the House, but he'll have the Senate working for him. That means he can keep passing judges. There's a lot of stuff that he could get done like that, and that will create very specific investment scenarios. So that's the 4 major scenarios that I see happening right now. So with that being said, we got some new people coming. Toby Fresh. That's a good last name if that's your name. What's my prediction? Are you asking about the election? Are you asking about which one of these scenarios? Are you asking about which instruments do I think are going to go up or down? If you could be a little bit more specific, that would be awesome. So I know there's a 15-second delay, so I will wait for that answer. But I do have, where I'm leaning, where I think things are going to go. I don't think it's a guarantee. I don't think it's a certainty. I think things are leaning a certain way. But I believe you want all of it. Of course you do. Okay, so first off, hello to you, Rosalind. Good to have you here. Okay, in terms of my prediction for the election, I'm leaning, if I was a betting man and I was forced to make a bet on it, I would bet that Biden's going to win. I'm leaning towards Biden winning. I think there's a much greater probability that he wins. If I was to face this election scenario 100 times, that's the real test of any bet, of any trader, is if you are faced with the same trade setup 100 times, how would you play it? 60-40, 50-50, 70-30 kind of thing. And I would lean towards Biden winning the majority of those. So I understand that the polls were wrong in 2016, but they've recorrected a lot of the algorithms and the mechanisms for those polls. And I think the situation is very different. You compare Trump versus Hillary, and Trump's message back in 2016, it was much more of a populist message. This time around, it's much different. Joe Biden's not disliked as much as Hillary. And there's, Hillary there's a lot of things that played it that didn't work well for Hillary, especially that Comey, situation at the last week. So if I had to make this trade 100 times, I would probably lean toward, not probably, I would lean towards Biden winning the majority of those, probably 65 to 70% of the time. That's where I'd be leaning in terms of the election. In terms of, if I had to give a number, in terms of what I think the Electoral College is going to play itself out, I would think somewhere between, I think it's going to be somewhere between 290 and 315 for Joe Biden. So 290 would be a strong win. 315 would be dominant. That would be a very, very dominant win. He would need to take Florida for that. He would need to, there's a lot of things he would need to do that. He would need to flip a lot of states while running the majority of states that they're expected to win. So the more dominant the victory is on either side, the better it is for the country, because that reduces the chances of social unrest, of contested election or anything like that. It just makes it easier for everybody to move on. If it's like 1 or 2 points or half a point difference, that's going to create a lot of social unrest in the US, in my opinion. So I think Biden's going to win. I think it's going to be somewhere between 290 and 315. That's kind of just my sense of it. When I try and put my spidey senses out there, I'm sensing somewhere between 290 and 315 in terms of electoral colleges. I think if the Democrats are going to take the Senate, that's a really tough call. That's about as close to a 50-50 as I could possibly imagine. I think it's going to be either a 50-50 type situation in the sense of they'll have 50 seats, the Republicans have 50 seats, and the vice president being Kamala Harris, she would be the deciding vote. I think it's going to be like 50-50, 51-49, 52-48, at best 53-47. I don't think it's going to be a landslide. So I think it's going to be tight. That's a really tough one. If you had to ask me which is an easier bet, I would rather take the bet on who's going to win the election versus the Senate. The Senate is a very tough call. It's a much tougher call than the presidency, in my opinion. So that's kind of where I'm landing on this one here. Hrishikesh Kamat, coffee. I haven't had any coffee. It's 5 in the evening. So if I had coffee, I would probably be up till like 4 a.m. I am one of those persons that, strangely enough, when I wake up in the morning, I don't need coffee. I just wake up and I have energy. I wake up and my mind's ready to go. My body pretty much is ready to go. Like, I wake up and I somehow don't need coffee. So, yeah, I don't have it right now. And it's one of those things that if I have any sort of caffeine after like 2 or 3 p.m., it keeps me up like super late at night. Caffeine is like, just a little bit of caffeine gives me like a super huge boost. The last time I had coffee was July. And it was because I was traveling for my birthday. We had traveled like 8 hours. It was a very long trip. And the next morning we had coffee, except I had a double cappuccino. So I was going bold. And this is the first time I had coffee in months. And I swear to you, I felt like, you know how when the space shuttle like takes off from like those platforms and there's like all that thruster stuff coming off, I felt like the cerebral cortex in my brain had thrusters and was like lifting off. And so that was very problematic for me, because to have that much stimulation is just too much. So my brain is just naturally very weak. So yeah, that's how it rolls for me. Toby Fresh, it's 7:57 p.m. where I am. So you're what, East Coast? Yeah, you're East Coast. I'm in California time. Optimistic Trader, that's a great name. How well was your prediction of last election? I actually didn't make a prediction last election. Mostly because it just wasn't that important to me to make a prediction about it. I wasn't doing any webinars or anything like that. And I also wasn't as busy on YouTube or anything like that. But it wasn't as important to me. I did actually, between my friends and family, I was leaning towards actually Trump. I said, I think it's more probable that Trump is going to win. I think he's going to pull it off. And I think he was very underestimated in 2016. I didn't vote for him in 2016. In fact, in 2016, I actually didn't vote. I was kind of doing a protest vote because my guy was Bernie Sanders and I wanted him to win. And I felt like the Democratic Party had done a lot to manipulate a lot of situations to oust him. And I think if they had let him be the candidate, I think he would have he would have beaten Trump pretty badly. I think would have been very dominant. He was actually showing to be polling more favorably versus Trump than Hillary was. Hillary was a not liked candidate. She just wasn't well liked. Bernie was, he had great support. Even Trump admitted that Bernie had stronger support and fans than Hillary did. So because of that, I decided to do a protest vote, and I didn't vote in the presidential election. I voted in the smaller elections, but I didn't vote in the presidential election. But I told my friends and family, I said, I think Trump can win this. I think you should be very careful on this one here. So yeah, Toby Fresh, Indiana. Is Indiana on East Coast time or are you Central time? I thought Indiana must be East Coast time because it's 8 o'clock. So Shahab, good to see you. Angela G, wow, a progressive trader. Yeah, I do lean very progressive. It sounds strange, but I do lean very progressive. I am, even though I'm an American, I have lived in 5 countries. I've lived in US, I've lived in Argentina, I've lived in Uruguay, I've lived in Canada, I've lived in Mexico, and I will probably live in 4 or 5 more countries easily, over the rest of my lifetime. Easily. I could easily live in 5 more countries in the rest of my lifetime. And when you do that, when you live in a lot of different countries, you get to see different political systems, different social structures, different capital, economic structures. And I lean much more towards the progressive side. If I had a system that I would model, I think I would probably, have like a model between New Zealand, Singapore, and then like some Scandinavian European country, to where you have a good social structure for everybody, that their basic needs, are provided for, healthcare for everybody, free college education. But then I think you can mix in enough capitalism inside that to, create a very strong capitalistic engine. Singapore does a really good job of that. New Zealand does a really good job of that. And, I think if you provide education for people, then it means that everybody gets an opportunity. You don't have to come from a wealthy family to get a really good education. Everybody should get an education. I think if you create those support systems for people, you allow the whole base to rise up. And as they say, a rising tide lifts all boats. So yeah, that's where I would lean towards. I would lean towards a system like that. So Toby is East Coast. Okay, gotcha. Lazenby, good to see you. Fade the pound. You're a pound. Okay, so Justin, good to see you. Saying FX market's starting to get a little wacky. Really? Let's take a look. Let's take a look. And where is my, there we go. So let's see what's happening in dollar yen. Yeah, not surprising. You're seeing a little bit of jump, 30 pip jump here and there. Not surprising that you're going to see that. We're kind of in low liquidity session right now. Let's see what's going on Euro US dollar. I don't think a whole lot, but let's take a look. So Euro dollar has shifted dramatically from 1620 over the last 40 minutes. Yeah, about an 8 pip drop in the session, and that's pretty strong. So that's a good sign. That's a good sign. We want volatility. What's going on with Bitcoin? Bitcoin's losing ground. That could be because there's less likely a contested election. What's happening in TLT? TLT's rising, so that's good. Q should have closed. And S&P futures dropping a little bit. Okay, so let's see what's going on with the most updated map. And Florida is now flipping. Ooh, that's interesting. That is very interesting. Let's see what's going on with that. So Biden taking this. He's taking some of the old people in Tampa. There's a lot of old people on this side here. Like a lot of retired. That is very tight. That is very, very tight. So what are we talking here? 31,000 difference right now with 82% reporting. Very interesting. Texas. Okay, wow. If that flips, again, if Trump needs to run Texas, he needs to run Florida, he needs to take Pennsylvania, which hasn't come in yet. He needs to keep Georgia. He cannot lose Georgia. He can't lose Arizona or Nevada. There's a lot of things. These are all expected to be this, but yeah, he can't lose. He needs to really, what is that? Straight flush. He really needs to kind of get a straight flush on this one here. And if he loses any of the big players, then he's in trouble. So that's kind of what's happening right now. Taking a look at, let's see here. Euro pound. Let's take a look at some Euro pound. Sal, we will need a third party to get proper representation. Nobody's pushing Biden to the left. There's a couple people that are pushing him to the left. You got AOC, you got Bernie, you got Warren a little bit. You have some of the newer progressives that are in office now that are pushing him. But I agree with you. I think it's time for the U.S. to have a third party, and the polls generally show that. The polls generally show that there is a desire for a third party, as far as I can see. Hello, Kenneth Lamb. Good to see you. Okay, euro pound. So let's take a look at the weekly. I haven't traded euro pound in a little bit. It hasn't been exactly going anywhere. So I'd like to potentially buy off this support here. Yeah, 8891. That would be a potentially good buy point. So I'm going to set an alert for that. Rip, pull back. Rip, pull back. Wow, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 5 of the last 8 weeks, it's been selling off. It has lost the 20 EMA. Yeah, I might be interested in picking up at 888, 889. Stop just below this here. Lazenby, are you thinking that the euro pound 895 you have? Yeah, I can see that. I think 895 is good. It's not my favorite. It's not the best of them, because you have this right here, you have this base right here. I would consider this kind of like a medium-term support level, but I would not consider it necessarily, a super big support level. And this is obviously the bigger one, 888. If it loses 895, then I would look to scoop it up at 888, 889. That's where I'm looking at that. Inform for bulls to hold, seeing 3P action on the longer time frame. Which time frame are you seeing it on, Lazenby? Justin Goodman saying Joe Jerkson. I think he's one of the independents. It's hard for me to keep up with all this. So Toby Fresh is saying, so you want Biden? I wouldn't necessarily say I want Biden. Biden's not really my choice of a guy. He's kind of like number 5 or number 8 choice on my list from the Democrats. Again, my guy was Bernie. But Bernie's not on the ballot. So if I had to lean towards someone that I would prefer between the two candidates, I would lean towards Biden. I am a Buddhist by training. I've been training as a Buddhist for 20 years. And our training, there are certain, I guess you can say, codes that we agree to, that we commit to, certain vows that we take. And as a longtime Buddhist, I am of the belief that everybody, all people, all cultures, all families have wisdom and confusion. And I think that extends to Trump and Biden. I think they both have wisdom and they both have confusion. I think they both have traits that they do well, and I think they have traits that they don't do so well at. And my overall sense of what's going on in the country right now is I'm 4 decades into this country, and it's the most chaotic and unstabilized I've ever seen it. It's the most extreme I've ever seen it. And I, as a Buddhist, would lean towards the candidate that I feel has more empathy and compassion and has a greater ability to bring people together. So that's why I would be leaning towards Biden in this case versus Trump. But I'm willing to be wrong on that. I am not attached to that. I'm not polarized about it in the sense of if somebody disagrees with me or they feel like Trump is better for that, I'm totally willing to hear that argument. I feel pretty open-minded and flexible about that. I do think Trump has some good qualities, and I think he's done some good things. But I also think he's done some destructive things. And, there's certain things that, I feel like we need as a country right now. And there's a lot of things actually we need as a country. The country's, in my opinion, not going in a great direction. And so, yeah, that's where I'm leaning towards right now. So 886, yeah, I'd have to agree with you on that, Lazenby. I'd have to agree with you on that for sure. I think 888 to 886 is a really strong level. I think it's a very, very strong level. Arvind De Leon, good morning from Asia. Good morning to you. Nice article on the Times. My article, I'm curious. I'm not sure which article. Kenneth saying you're a Bernie bro. Yeah, I'm with you on that one. I think Bernie, was somebody who had the right ideas for the generations moving forward and the people moving forward. And I feel like he would also be somebody that would make good decisions in terms of how to manage a situation. You were a delegate for him in 2016. That's awesome. That's very cool. So some traders are progressive. Yes, we are. 1970s Bernie's was the real deal. Yeah, I mean, I've seen videos from him. So Toby said, my mom said we're moving if Trump loses. How do you feel about that? I mean, I would, instead of like just moving, I would try a wait and see. A lot of people said that they were going to move the first time that Trump got elected. And my opinion on that is just wait and see. Just wait and see how it plays itself out, Be open. People can surprise you. People can surprise you. They can change directions. That's a real thing. Miss Actor saying euro pound neutral with no direct effect by the dollar. Yeah, I don't really want to trade euro pound right now. Again, I want this support right here, and then I'll get long in it. Let me check and see what's going on with the updated election results right now. So 22% reporting. Texas is leaning 4% for Biden right now. That's pretty interesting. Florida is now flipped decently to Trump now. It's now 1.6%. He was down 1.6%. Now he's up 1.6%. So it's about 150,000 votes with 85% reporting. That's very interesting. South Carolina wasn't expected to be contested. Georgia is now flipped back, leaning towards Donald Trump. He's down about 30K in that one with 11% reporting. Kansas, really? Kansas is going for Joe Biden? I'd be curious on that one. Illinois, not surprising. That's to be expected. Ohio, that's a big one. That's a very, very big one. Trump cannot lose Ohio. If he loses Ohio, that's bad. Pennsylvania is only 1% reporting, so that's too early to call. Virginia is still being called for Joe Biden, even though he's down a little bit, but that's interesting. So right now it's still a little mixed. Trump is not running, the inside straight or the flush that he needs to right now, but it's still very early. Michigan's early. Joe Biden there. The key, to me, the top, 8 states, you got Nevada, Arizona, super important. You have Texas, you have Florida, Georgia. So what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I would say Virginia, Pennsylvania, huge, 6, 7. And then Michigan, Wisconsin, those are all going to be 8, 9. So I think those are the 9 most important states. I think everything else is pretty clear where they're going to go. I think those are the 9 most important states. If Trump doesn't run a lot of those, he's in trouble. If Biden steals a couple of them, then he's in a very favorable position. So that's what I'm saying. Toby's saying, I love USA. You're fun to watch. I appreciate that. Thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, so Lubos Matula. Where are you from, Lubos? It's a cool name, by the way. Hi, Chris. Aussie yen is currently at a fake breakout. View this opportunity. Thank you, Lubos. Let's take a look. What's going on, Aussie yen? Do you have a time frame? By the way, if you want me to look at any currency, any instrument, you have to do 3 things: instrument, time frame, and 1 sentence description, bullish or bearish. That's the most important thing. I need that. Otherwise, I'm just kind of shooting in the dark. So give me instrument, time frame, and the 1 sentence description, bullish or bearish. That's what I need. Okay, so what do you do on this channel? Okay, so I'm guessing you're new to it, so it's welcome here. So I've been trading for 20 years. As a broker on Wall Street, traded for a hedge fund, and I've been trading privately, 2 decades now. So I've traded through .com, the 2000.com, 2001.com bubble. I've traded through the London terrorist bombings, very sad event, very challenging event as a trader. I've traded through the GFC, Great Financial Crisis. I've traded through the SNB, Swiss National Bank, repricing of the euro and Swiss franc. And I've traded through the coronavirus. So what we do on this channel, our focus is I'm a multi-asset class trader. I trade stocks, I trade FX, I trade commodities, I trade options, I trade it all. I trade bonds, I trade it all. There isn't anything that I don't trade at this point. And so I am a mix between a day trader and a swing trader. I'm not just a day trader, I'm not just a swing trader. I day trade the US markets Monday through Thursday. I usually trade for the first 1 to 3 hours. I trade live with my students for about the first hour, hour and a half. And then after that, I may take some day trades later in the day, but I'm generally swing trading at that point. So I have to look at my most recent stats, but I think it's leaning towards, you know, slightly more swing trades than day trades. I usually pick 2 to 3 stocks in the US session, and I usually day trade those pretty aggressively for the day. And so, yeah, I'm a day trader, I'm a swing trader, I trade it all. And but the majority of my trading right now is in stocks. I'm doing a little bit less FX right now because there isn't as much volatility in FX. I like volatility, I need volatility, and I trade options. And there's much less options available in FX than there is in stocks. So, but I trade it all. And the goal of this channel is to teach people how to trade stocks, FX, commodities. We focus on price action. That's our core technical skill, is how to trade price action and the order flow behind it. So that's what we do as a channel. Right now, we do 2 videos a week. We do live Tuesday mornings, US stock market open, and then we do Fridays, a top trade review. We're going to keep it slim like that for the rest of the year because we're building something new that we'll be announcing in late December. And then next year, we're going to start ramping up the YouTube channel, doing 3 vids a week kind of thing, 1 live session and then 2 vids after that. So yeah, that's what we're doing for the rest of the year. Okay, so that's what we do in this channel. Lubos, do you have a time frame? Lazenby does, 4 hour, 74.98. Lazenby, are you bullish, bearish? Give me a description here. I'm guessing, that's very interesting. I'm guessing short-term bullish, medium-term neutral, maybe slightly bearish. Okay, so it's kind of a mix of a chart. Draw some lines that I think are, I think you got a short-term support here. Let's do a line for that one. I think you got a base there. You're kind of in a very interesting range for 4 hour. You're saying bullish, medium term, false break, short term. Okay. Yeah, short term I like being bullish. Reason being is, so you have impulsive, little corrective structure bound, counter trend impulsive move, fails at an important resistance level here at 76.53. Very impulsive selling here. So look at this impulsive. You can see small corrective moves in here. Impulsive corrective, rejects at 20 MA. The 20 MA carries a brief short rally, but it's super corrective. No real liftoff and impulsive selling. So that makes it to this base of support, right around here, 73. And there's another base of support, obviously at 72.70. But then after triple tapping it, dink, 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 actually quadruple tapping it, it's interesting because you just keep seeing these tails and rejections telling you that, hey, the buyers keep rejecting this on a 4 hour basis. They keep going and pushing back. They eventually do launch a good counterattack and break through this kind of support level right here. So that kind of impulsive, corrective, breakdown, impulsive, counter trend impulsive, breaking back above this creates kind of a false break scenario. So yeah, I think your short-term analysis is correct on this one here. I probably wouldn't want to get long at current prices. If I did want to get long, I'd probably wait to pull back towards this, 74.20 area right here. But I think there's scope for a move towards 76 and then maybe 76.53. Toby saying, can you check who's winning? Let's see who's winning. Dun, dun, dun. So updated 519. Yeah, it's 519. Okay, so let's see what's going on. I did not want to do that. Let's see here. So right now, Texas is really tight. Texas is very, very tight. That's gotten tighter. So now it's 0.2%, 24% reporting. Florida is pulling a little bit more for Donald Trump now. So he was down 1.4, 1.5%, and now he's up, what is that, 1.8%? So he's up by about 190,000 right now, 86% reporting. Let's see. There's still a few right there. I don't know if that's going to flip. That's not a whole lot left. And yeah, I don't know if that's going to flip. So I'm leaning towards him taking Florida. Georgia is now pulling away for Donald Trump, and Texas just flipped. So Kansas, that's a strange one. I'm really shocked about that one. I don't think anybody was expecting Kansas to go blue. So if that stays like that, that would be shocking. Okay, so you've only had the major cities, so not a whole lot at this point. Illinois to be expected. Now Michigan's flipping. Oh, it's only 1% reporting, so it's too early. Ohio, 45% reporting, and Biden's pretty strong in the lead right now. That's a big state. That's 18 electoral right there. None of this was really expected to be contested. North Carolina, that was something that could potentially flip. There's only 1% reporting right now. Virginia is still with only 28% supposedly going to Joe Biden. That's very interesting. Pennsylvania, 3% reporting right now. Biden's pretty far in the lead, and Texas looks like it just flipped back. Wow, this is getting crazy. This is getting crazy. So I don't think anything in here was expected to be contested. Maine, how many electoral votes is that? 4. We don't have anything here yet. So yeah, it's interesting. There's a lot flipping right now. God, Kansas, that would be such a trip. That would be a trip. Toby, you said you're in Indiana. Whereabouts? My mom grew up in, she grew up in a small farm outside of South Bend. So my mom is from Indiana. Okay. Marcelo Riascos. Marcelo, ¿de dónde sos? Estoy pensando, estás latino, entonces sí. ¿Hablas español? Si hablas, me avisa. Y también, ¿de dónde sos? Y Marcelo, hey Chris, can you please check pound yen 4-hour thinking about going short? I mean, personally, I would be cautious until we have a little bit more certainty about elections. So you're seeing, this is interesting. Q's dipped at the end there. We're seeing a little bit of dip in the S&P because results are a little bit more mixed now, which is what we said. If results are mixed and there's a lot of questions around it, expect the markets to fall. If they become dominant to one side or the other, then you can expect the markets to rise. Bitcoin is still down. Pound yen, what time frame you wanted to look at? 4-hour. Thinking about going short. I wouldn't want to short pound yen here. If I'm going to short pound yen, I look at this zone. So I think that is a decent zone. It's not my favorite zone. It's a decent zone. Let's extend this out though a little bit. Yeah, it's not bad now. It's a little bit better zone. So you got resistance, 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 resistance. It's a decent zone. I think if you're going to short, in my opinion, Marcelo. Okay. Estás ecuatoriano. Ok. Muy interesante. Tengo una pregunta y era una noticia de la, ¿cómo se llama? Embarques, boats, I forget the word in Spanish, desde China. Está sacando mucho, ¿cómo se llama? Tipos de fish and wildlife. Some of these words I don't know in Spanish, but I heard there's a lot of Chinese boats that are off the shores of Ecuador right now that are taking the fish illegally right now. So I'd be curious to hear what you say with that. Y no sabía que hablamos algo de español. Shocking. Sí, pero viví en Argentina, Uruguay y México por muchos años. Entonces aprendí en Argentina. Entonces, en realidad hablo castellano. Entiendo español, pero hablo castellano. Entonces, sí. Pero tengo amigos en Ecuador. Entonces, sí. Es un buen país. Okay, so pound yen, you want to look at that? Yeah, I think if you're going to short, Marcelo, I think here, I think is a better price area if you're going to short. So between 137.85 and 137.38, I think that's a better zone to short. I think right now it's a little bit too early. I think this is a more premium type entry. So that would be my suggestion on that. So hopefully that helps. He left the room for 1 second. Okay, Toby's saying, what do you mean by like 1% and by it's too early? So with the results, if only 1% is reporting, there's not enough data in that. That means only 1% of the election results from that state have come in. So like there was one, where was it? Michigan, it's 3%. That's a very small amount. You're talking a few districts. So if you look at it, it's just a few districts. Granted, these are big districts: Detroit, Flint, Lansing, Grand Rapids. Those are all major cities, but there's not enough data for that to give us any sort of idea as to what's going on. Justin said, left the room and came back and you're speaking a totally different language. Yeah, I speak Spanish. Podemos hablar en español. Hay palabras no entiendo, entonces there are words that I don't understand, technical words for like trading. I never learned that when I learned Spanish. I never learned the technical words. And there's certain words politically that I don't understand. But yeah, I speak Spanish. Even a little bit of French too. When they tried to do something about the Chinese fleet just left. Really? That's interesting. Okay. That's very interesting. So are they still there, Marcelo, or are the Chinese fleets still there, or have they taken off? I'd be curious to know about that. So sad, Ecuadorian government did almost nothing about illegal fishing there. Yeah, it's very sad in my opinion. Chinese and Japanese boats all over the oceans. Yeah, I'm hearing about that, Alan. I'm hearing about that. Okay. Do I know Thailand? I've been to Thailand. I don't know Thai. My goal is that by the time I shuffle off this mortal coil of a body, my goal is to be speaking 7 languages. So I got English, I got Spanish, I know a little bit of French. I think if I spent 6 months in France, I would have it. Italian, I think I could pick up Italian, and Portuguese really easy. It's very close to Spanish. So that would put me at 4 languages, with French 5. And then I'd probably like to pick up 1 Asiatic language and 1 Arabic language. So that'd be the goal. Thailand was having a protest. Yeah, I've heard about that. I've been hearing about that. But I do not speak Thai language. Okay, so one more quick update. Let's see what's going on here. Florida is breaking pretty strongly right now, 88%. I'm not sure how much of that is, like how much does the mail-in ballots need to be counted? Texas right now is 200,000 to Joe Biden. That's very favorable so far. If he steals that state. Kansas, I don't understand that one. That's kind of shocking. Kansas City has not fully reported in. Topeka, Wichita, those are some of the major areas. But yeah, I'm still kind of shocked about that one. Ohio is looking stronger and stronger for Joe Biden. That's interesting. Indiana, I don't think Biden had any chance at that. Michigan, where's that leaning right now? 4% reporting Trump is leading that one, so that one's interesting. Virginia, they're still calling it. I still don't understand that one. And Georgia now is starting to separate a little bit for Trump, but it's still only 19%, so it's early. Okay, so that's what we got going on right now. So let's take a look at ES. ES is kind of chilling for a moment. Q should be done, so that's done for the day. TLT should be done for the day, if I'm correct. Unless there is overnight. No, there isn't any overnight trading on that one. No, there is not. So we can just move to all the overnighters. Bitcoin dipping. So maybe they're expecting more of a little bit of a wave. Gold. Okay. That's a pretty big dip. 1916.884. Let's take a look at gold. Let's start with weekly. En teoría, la flota china no ha vuelto. Okay. Esperamos que eso siga así. Okay. Interesante. Interesante. Okay. Keep me advised on that, Marcelo. I'm very interested to hear how that plays out. There's a lot of us that really care about that issue, believe it or not. Picking up Chinese is quite useful. I do think that would be, I think it would be a very powerful language to learn. I actually took a year of Chinese. I took a year of Chinese in college, and I did very well at it. So I think I could pick it up. I think I could probably pick it up in about a year. Toby's saying Indiana is all Trump, we all country, basically. Yeah, India. Yeah, I'm not surprised about that. I'm not surprised about that. India is a great state, though. My mom grew up there, and we have a lot of friends there. So yeah. Okay, so taking a look at gold. This isn't aggressive selling. You know, some profit taking here. You got an impulsive, corrective, impulsive structure, corrective structure. 20 EMA just keeps holding though. So there are dip buyers that continually come on in the 20 EMA. So that's kind of the 20 EMA, like a weekly close below the 20 EMA in 1849. I think that would kind of be a not so good signal for gold. I think some traders would be unwinding if it got below 1846, 1843 kind of thing. I think technical traders would be unwinding. We have not had a weekly close below the 20 EMA since then. But this pullback, you can see this one candle is impulsive. This is corrective. This is impulsive. This is corrective. And so this pullback, if you think about this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 13 weeks. So 13 weeks has not erased 3 weeks of gains. So the structure overall, from a medium to long-term perspective, is still very favorable to gold. But it needs to show some verve. It needs to show some verve in the near future. If it doesn't, then it's probably, you're going to start to see some interest wane that it's just not bouncing, because these lows are continually getting smaller and smaller. So I think if that folds, if this area folds right here, then I think you'll probably see a deeper pullback, 1750, and then you have a much bigger support at 1675. Hit 1675, I would probably take a medium-term long on that one. I think I would take a move on that one, because I think gold overall has a higher base. You know, overall, I feel like it has a higher base. So we had the very big move for those of you that were trading back in 11. Then we had, this is very exhaustive, parabolic, sells off, and it takes years to recover, but it built a really solid base, in my opinion. Before, the base in gold was much lower. And this is a very big base. So I think, any pullbacks in gold eventually are going to get bought. And I think, even if we were to see a massive sell-off in gold, I don't see it getting below. I don't think gold would get below 1,500, over the next 3 months. I think it's pretty well supported. I think people want to dip. And so I could easily see gold eventually, once it finds that support, making a run for 2,500. So I do have some gold exposure right now through GDX. It's Gold Miners Index. Gold Miners Index ETF. That's what I have exposure in gold right now. Arvind Leon, FX markets trading with a risk-off tone right now. Yeah, that's what we're seeing. Let's go to the 5-minute and dollar yen. Not so much though. I mean, it's kind of just treading water. You're talking a 30 pip range in dollar yen. Euro dollar is showing a little bit more of that. That's, 75, 80 pip drop. That's showing a little bit more of that. And gold right now, if we look at gold showing gold is not risk off generally. Risk off would mean gold would be benefiting from it. So you're getting some mixed signals right now, which is very interesting. So you talk about the money of the earth. I'm not sure I understand that, Toby, can you help me out? I have a concert tomorrow at 7:30. You're going to a concert or you're playing a concert? Marcelo saying, el problema principal era que pescaban en una endemic zones. Yeah, that was the thing we were hearing about it, was that it was a protected area for all the fish and the wildlife there. So, una isla llamada Galapagos. Yes, the very famous island that was supposed to, from what I remember, that was protected. Especies protegidas. Yeah, ahí. Yeah, that's what we were hearing. So, okay. Okay. So they're in Latin America, but they've gone over there. Okay. Very interesting. Justin saying, you think he may be trolling me? Is that true, Toby? Are you trolling me? That's not nice. That's not nice. You don't want to troll me. Gold was recently dumped by central banks. That's why it dropped to 1860 when the news came up. But I mean, if central banks were dumping gold, you would expect a much bigger reaction. Or if they were dumping it, then buyers were coming in on the bid and absorbing some of those offers. Because if they really were selling off in force, this is not a huge drop. 2070 to 1900, that's not a huge drop. That's not a huge drop. Like if they came in and did this, okay, then that would show a much more concerted effort. But this is not a huge drop. So if they are selling it, it's still being bought up. You know, there's people coming in on the bid on that. You're playing a concert. My question is, you talk about the sales of countries. Playing a concert. My question is, you talk about the sales of countries. I'm not sure what you mean about that, Toby. You have to help me out. Muhammad Kadir saying long gold. So Muhammad, if you want me to, if you're just shooting out ideas, gotcha. Okay. Jonathan Nicholas, good to see you. It's up to you. Muhammad thinks Biden will win. I'm leaning towards that. Kenneth is saying crude oil winter is coming. No puns intended, but yeah, that's a good pun if you're going to do that. Crude oil winter is coming. Yeah, I think crude oil will probably get some underpinnings because of winter coming, and also depends on how cold it is. Supposedly we're in a solar minimum, so we're getting less sunspots and solar flares. So, you know, with that being said, if that's the case, then we have a colder winter, more need for oil and natural gas. Toby's saying you're 13. Why would I be trolling you? I'm just curious about it. Ah, okay. Well, it's good to have you here. Well, about what you talk about. Okay, gotcha, Toby. It's good to know you're not trolling me. Okay, so let's take a look at S&P is just kind of chilling right now. Bitcoin's kind of chilling right now. Gold has a little bit of a move, and Euro looks like, Euro looks like it might drop a little bit more. If it loses 1675, then it'll probably find a base between 1648 and 1624. So let's see updated results. Okay, Florida is now, there's still only 1% more reporting. So it's still Trump control right now. Texas is tightening. It's now a 1.7% race. So what is that? It's about 100,000, 110,000. Pennsylvania has just started reporting 5%, and Biden's winning that pretty strongly. Kansas, I still have no idea why that's playing out like that. North Carolina, that's interesting. If that flips blue, by 65% reporting on North Carolina, and he's up by about 300,000. So that's strong. Trump is gaining some distance on Georgia, and Ohio is still firmly in Biden's camp. Half of is reported right now. Michigan's still 8%, so it's still early right now. So what am I talking about exactly, Toby? Toby, I'm talking about a few different markets right now. So we're talking about Euro US dollar, which is the exchange rate of the euro to the US dollar. We have a free intro to Forex trading course on our website, secondskiesforex.com. So if somebody wants to get the link to that, that would be awesome. We also have an intro to FX course in our YouTube thing here. So let me see if I can get that for you real quick. Let's see here. Videos. Let's go to playlists, and we have an intro beginners Forex trading course. So my suggestion is to start with this beginners Forex trading course, where we talk about the currencies. Like when I say euro US dollar, this is the currency exchange rate of the euro to the US dollar. So right now, 1 euro is 1.1675 US dollars. So when I'm talking about euro US dollar or gold or Bitcoin or something like that, I'm talking about currencies and there are things here. So here's a link to that course, and we also have a free text-based course you can check out as well. And here's the free beginners course. So that's probably what, here you go on that. That'll help you get started with that. Angelo, I'm considering buying your course, but I'm not looking for a theory class where I get a bunch of info and that's it. You're on your own now. I want a military style regime with drills. Okay, so Angela, the way our course, so it depends on which course you're doing, but our flagship course is the price action course. And our overall, how could you say, the central thesis of how we trade price action is that all information, whether you're a technical trader, whether you're a fundamental trader, whether you're a sentiment trader or flow-based trader, or any combination of that, whatever information you use to make your buying and sell decisions has to be converted to an actual order. It has to be converted to a trade, buying and selling. When you hit the button and your trade gets activated, it's what we call activated order flow. Order flow is the most proximate driver of price action that you see on this chart, the most proximate driver of price action. And so our price action course focuses on models to teach you to understand the price action and the order flow behind the market. If the flow of all the orders is the most dominant thing which determines whether the currency pair or the stock moves up or down, well, then you want to learn techniques to be able to read that and trade that. Now, as to your thing about military style regime with drills, we have drills, we have skills that you have to practice, and we have a structure and a framework for how that works, which is sim, then demo, then live, sim, then demo, then live. And we have core skills that we teach you to practice so that when you learn these core skills, they help you understand how to read all this, how to read what's going on in the chart. And the better you are at those skills, the better you will be able to trade and read price action. Very much like if you want to be a good basketball player, you're going to need to know how to dribble. You're going to need to have good footwork. You're going to need to have good passing. You're going to need to have good, shooting. You need all those core skills. And the thing about it is that LeBron James doesn't have, a unique set of skills that is unavailable to the other basketball players. But the only difference is that he's been able to refine those skills to a deeper and deeper level. And that's what separates him from all the other basketball players. So when we approach trading, we approach it as a skill-based endeavor. Just like if you want to be a mixed martial artist, you need to have really good skills. If you want to be a quarterback, you need to have skills in place. And that's the way we approach trading. You have to have skills. So that's kind of our approach to it. There is some military style regime in terms of the structure, in terms of the framework, but it's not a fixed rule-based system. If you think about it, if you trade a fixed rule-based system, isn't the market always in flux? The market's always in flux, right? Volatility is in flux. So you can't have fixed pip size stops now, can you? You can't have fixed patterns like, I always trade this pattern and the pattern must look exactly like this because the market is in flux. So you can't have totally fixed. You can, but you got to go completely algorithmic if you want that. And the thing about it is someone who's worked as a hedge fund trader, if you want to go completely algorithmic, understand that the algorithmic systems that hedge funds use change every 12 to 18 months. That means they have to rediscover new systems every 12 to 18 months. I would rather, instead of having to discover new algorithmic systems every 12 to 18 months, I would rather have a core set of skills that I can use on any instrument, any time frame, any environment. And that's how we approach trading price action. The skills that I teach in the price action course work on any instrument, any time frame, any environment. Just like if you have badass footwork and you have badass passing skills and badass shooting skills and you have really good dribbling, you can be a badass basketball player. And that's how we teach you how to trade. So hopefully that gives you an idea of what it's about. Okay, Jonathan Nicholas, so good to hear from you. Quick question. What are your thoughts on supply and demand levels when trading news or events like today's election? I don't think supply and demand works with FX because you have so much supply that it's rarely and ever an issue of that. I think supply and demand works better on things that have low liquidity, but I don't think it applies on most of the stocks that I trade. They're trading 10, 20, 30, 50 million shares. You're only talking in a very narrow range of that level of liquidity. Does the actual supply and demand matter? I approach it more from an order flow perspective, not a supply and demand perspective, because it's not so much about available supply that does come into play, but in a very narrow bandwidth of situations. What does apply in all situations is order flow. So I'd rather approach the markets from a framework that I can use in all environments versus something that's a very narrow bandwidth. Toby Fresh says, I'm back. I finish it tomorrow after school. Cool. Awesome. Cool. Enjoy it and let me know how it goes, Toby. Okay, so let's do a quick update. S&P, chill, Bitcoin not going anywhere, gold holding, Euro US dollar kind of holding there. Let's see what the updated results are. Okay, so Texas still tight. It's getting tighter. It's now a 0.9% edge for Joe Biden. Florida is now 2.5% for Trump, but it's interesting because we're still at 88% reporting. Kansas is still Joe Biden, now at 35%. Missouri, oh, okay, it's 2%. Ohio is a little bit more. We're at 2% more, and that is Joe Biden showing up. Pennsylvania started reporting. They're still only at 7% right now, but it's very strongly Joe Biden. Virginia is still being called. They haven't nudged on that. Joe Biden is up in North Carolina by 6%. That's a big one. Not a huge amount of electoral votes, but it's a fair amount. And so that's kind of what we're seeing here. Michigan is only 9%, and that is, wow, Donald Trump is dominating in that one there by 18%, but only about 80,000 right there. So very, very interesting. Okay. All right, cool. So let's see here. I'm thinking about wrapping it up in 15 minutes. So for this last 15 minutes, if you'd like to, we can do open fire Q&A or just open Q&A session. So if you have any instrument, any time frame you want to look at, give me the instrument, give me the time frame, one sentence description, bullish or bearish, and we'll spend the last few minutes there. Let me see if anybody else has got any different election coverage there. Let's see. Election results. This is the one I'm currently using. So let's see if we can get any others. Let's go from one on the left and let's see if we can get a Fox News. And we'll go for one on the right. So we get one on each side. Okay, so she's not. I'd like a map. Give me a map. That's not a good map. That's a bad map. That's a bad map, CBS. Okay. So let's see what Fox is saying. Okay, that's pretty straightforward. Florida looks very similar. 50.9 to 48.2, 50.9 to 40.2. Okay, that's the same. North Carolina, very similar. Missouri, they are predicting that one is going to be red. Kansas, they're predicting Trump. Okay, so that's a little bit more updated. Okay, I was wondering about that. That seemed a little weird. Virginia is being called for Joe Biden. North Carolina is dominantly here. Pennsylvania is still 7%. Okay. Ohio is... Okay, so Ohio is still very strongly for Joe Biden. We're still only at 53% reporting that's strong. And none of these others right now. Okay, gotcha. Gotcha. When will I go live next? Toby, the next time I'll be live will be Tuesday. So Tuesday at 6 a.m. Pacific, so 9 a.m. Eastern, 30 minutes before the U.S. stock market. That is when I do that live every Tuesday. We may do one this Friday. Yeah, it looks like we'll be live this Friday morning. So about 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern on Friday, we'll go live. So yeah, that'll be the next time we'll be live. If you subscribe to our channel at Second Skies Trading and you get the notifications, then we will post it in the community channel when we're going live. So you keep an eye on that. Justin Goodman, how do you feel about targets hitting during spread hours? Do you mean like are you talking stocks or are you talking FX? And Jonathan Nicholas is saying, can you remind me of the name of your browser? Yeah, this is the Opera GX browser. I like this one because it has this is Core 71 level 2. I like this one because it has the has really good privacy. It's one of the fastest loading. It's a browser for gamers. And even though I'm not a full-time, I'm not like some hardcore gamer, I do play games every now and then, but I like it because it's really focused on speed and privacy. And so that's what I like in terms of a browser. So yeah, Toby, good night to you as well. Good having you here. Okay, Justin is saying FX. So in terms of, Justin wants to know, how do you feel about targets hitting during spread hours? If you're talking about like targets and my FX targets hitting in say Asia or something like that, I don't have any problem with that. No problem at all. Hits my target, hits my target, hits my stop, hits my stop. That's the thing about trading FX, is that because of the overnight session, because of the Asia and session like that, where it's low liquidity, you do take that risk on. The one good, in some sense, that's a good thing because it means you can make money 24 hours, but it's also a challenge because it also means that there's certain risks involved. Spreads are going to get wider as the liquidity gets weaker. So that's an issue. Where stocks, if it's not a 24-hour traded stock or ETF or something like that, then it's going to have an aftermarket end and they'll have a pre-market start. So the market won't be moving outside of those hours. So yeah, you're saying because it's hard to take profit when the spread is 24 pips. Yeah, that's a challenge. Yeah, I mean, I'm not a fan of taking profit when you have super wide spreads. That's a challenge. I had to trade on and finally got to 2R after 2 days, but it got to my target during off hours. Yeah, I mean, if you have a 24 pip spread because it's in between sessions and your original target is only 100 pips, that's, 25% of your target just eaten up in the spread. That's problematic. So yeah, but if you have a limit on and the spread is high, the TP won't execute unless it gets, well, yeah, because if you would have, depending upon whether you're long or short, it has to either hit the bid or the offer. The charts only have, generally your charts are either set to the offer or the bid. So, it may get to you may need to get to the bid and the price may be hitting it to the offer, but not the bid. So it just depends whether you're long or short. But yeah, that's the downside of that. When spreads get high, you do have that issue. Is Kansas really flipping back? That's shocking. I did not even think that was possible. Like if you had asked me to bet 100 times if Kansas was going to be flipping blue 37% in, I would never, not a chance. Not a chance. Okay, 89% in Florida. So it looks like Florida is leaning towards Trump. Biden's going to need to pull this off. How are we in Texas? 54%. Okay, the lead's separating now in Texas. So Biden is starting to pull a little bit of advantage here. Virginia, they've called it. North Carolina is about 200,000 right now, difference right now, with 71% reporting in. If Trump loses North Carolina, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Texas, I mean, you could call it. He would have to just clean house on the rest. He would have to take Michigan, Wisconsin, Iowa, Minnesota. He'd just have to run the board. I don't even know if it'd be possible at that point. So very, very interesting. Seats in the election. The Senate has picked 35 seats on the 51 needed. So Democrats have 42. And so far, okay. Very interesting. Very interesting. That's president. Yeah, exactly, Justin. Exactly. Okay, so we will go for about 6 more minutes. And then I might just head home after that. So let's see if there's any different updates. I didn't expect Texas to flip, to be honest. I really did not expect Texas to flip. In Missouri, is Missouri coming in? Let's see. They got 2% reporting in. Okay. Okay, 2%. Okay, cool. That's not a big deal. And they got 55% with Ohio. And they got Ohio with 55%. Okay, looks like they got similar feeds, which is good to hear. Anything changing in the ES? Yeah, this is interesting. So ES, the S&P 500 futures, it was doing really well, and now it's mixed a little bit. So these mixed results are probably being based on Trump winning Florida, but being down in Texas. So if it was Trump taking Florida, Texas, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Virginia, Ohio, then I think you would see a very clear move in the S&P. But Trump looks like he's probably going to take Florida. Yeah, 89%. Biden's going to need to do pretty good in the last part. But with Trump having Florida and Biden right now doing pretty well in Texas, then you're going to see the S&P in a much more mixed situation because they're like, wait a minute, how do we play this out? You know, Trump needs Florida, but if he loses Texas, that's almost just as damning. It's in some sense worse. I can't remember the last time Texas flipped. Does anybody know the last time Texas flipped? Victor, good to see you. Good evening, Chris. Just tuning in. Regarding the question you saw earlier, do you trade exclusively with all of your available capital, or do you have a percentage of your portfolio going into index funds? No. So what you're asking is that, so in terms of index funds and things like that, that would be, I have a account that's just for trading, and then I have an account that's for long-term investing. If I do any sort of index funds, which I'm not really an index fund trader or investor, it's just not my jam. I do have some index funds, but I'm trying to think. Not many. Like my long-term investments that I'm going to like hold for 10, 20 years. I'm not really like, oh, I'm just going to put it in index funds and just let that, play out over time. That's just not my jam. I'm not that kind of investor trader. I do have long-term investments, but I'm not just going to pile it in index funds, which I think is a lazy way of trading or investing. So yeah. So, but my trading account is just for trading and I trade everything. For my investing account, that's very specific investments with the intention that everything in there I'm going to hold for a good 5-10 year horizon. So yeah, it's a good question. Victor saying trading versus investing, how do you divide it as a pro trader? The best way to think about this, Victor, is that trading is fast money and investing is slow money. That's the best way to think about it. So the majority of my capital is in trading because trading is fast money. And since I can control the risk pretty well, I don't need to put more into investments and less into trading because I'd rather turn my money over faster than turn it over slower. I do investing with a 5-10 year horizon because that allows me to kind of take an approach where I have certain stocks or certain companies that I want to invest in or certain things that I want to invest in, but I don't want to be too concerned about the timing. I just want to make sure I get the overall direction right. And I want that to have long-term appreciation in that. And that's generally with the focus of getting early in on companies, early in on prices, and then holding that for years and years and watching the stock go from single digits to double digits or double digits to triple digits, maybe even, have it like a 1 or 2 digit jump. That's what I'm looking for in my long-term investments. But for trading, the majority of my capital is in trading. So hopefully that's your question. Where you standing since you're doing clear? Yeah, the majority of my capital is in trading. I actually prefer, in terms of investing, I prefer to move capital more into things outside of the trading world. So like real estate or art or things that I believe will have long-term appreciation. That's where I prefer to move my capital in terms of investing. I'd like to have stuff outside of the financial realm because then that gives me much greater diversity and exposure. So very good question. Very good question. Okay. I think I can go a few more minutes and then I'm probably going to wrap this up. So let's see if we got nothing in the ES, Bitcoin, gold, chill, Eurodollar still hasn't. In Texas, I'm looking at, this is 538. Texas, I'm looking at Dallas surrounding counties and seeing some pro-Dem shifts from 2016. So 39% Clinton to 47% Biden. Tarrant County, 39% going to 40% Biden. So this is this is very interesting. If, let's say Texas or a traditionally red state flips blue. Hold on one second, it's a girlfriend. Okay, so let's say a state like Texas flips from red to blue. Texas has been red for a long time, but let's say it flips blue. Well, if you think about why would it flip blue? Well, something that's very interesting that you're seeing is people are moving away from high tax states like California, the state I'm in. California is a very high tax state. Top tax rate is 13.3%, which is insane because with the federal rate and the California rate, you could be paying a very high tax on that. So if you look at that, where do people go when they flee high tax states? They go to low tax states. And so California generally is a Democratic state. There are definitely conservatives, there are Republicans here for sure, but the larger portion of California is Democratic or progressive. So if people have capital and they're leaving high tax states and they're going to low tax states, where are they going? They're going to Florida, they're going to Texas, they're going to Nevada, they're going to Idaho, they're going to places, where they can have a lower tax basis. And so Texas is saying like, hey, we have a very favorable tax environment. And so you should come here and bring our business here. You should bring your money here and everything like that. We want that. They've invited Tesla. Joe Rogan went to Texas. So you have all this movement towards Texas. And so the people from Texas are like, great, we're getting all this money in. But you're also getting a new base of voters. And so in an interesting twist, the states that are very low tax rate are bringing and attracting people who are changing the voter base. And so Texas might be one of those. Hold on one second, I gotta answer this. Sorry, we got a new puppy. And so my girlfriend right now is walking the puppy around. Okay. So yeah, if Texas, and we just got a whole new, none of this was expected to be any different. New Mexico is flipping for Joe Biden. That would be a trip. So Texas is now narrowed a little bit to about 100,000 votes. That's interesting. Florida is separating for Donald Trump. So he's gaining now. So I think at this point, it's probably going to be called for Donald Trump pretty soon. Let's see where, I like this map better. It's so much bigger and better. Colorado was expected to be that. Nebraska is probably, okay. So Texas right now is about 100,000. Florida is pretty much done. Georgia looks like leaning towards Donald Trump. North Carolina is about 150,000 with 76%. That's Joe Biden. That's decently favorable. Virginia looks like they already called that, which is interesting, after 38%. Pennsylvania is still very dominantly, it's very early on, 9%, but it's still very dominantly Joe Biden. I'm curious where, okay, that's interesting. Ohio is strongly Joe Biden with 56%, so he's up 278,000 there. And Michigan is looking strong for Trump right now. That's only 15% in right now. Colorado, are they calling it? Looks like they're calling it. So balance of power right now in terms of the Senate, and this is very, very important, 43 Democrats, Republicans, 37. So right now, Democrats have gained 1 seat. I think they need to gain, was that 3 seats to make it an even? And yeah, so they gained 1 seat. Okay. Victor saying Salvador Dali is my favorite artist. I like Salvador Dali, but I'm not really someone who, I like Picasso. There's a couple contemporary artists, but I actually tend to like more East Asian type art. Any wines in your investments? I just closed on my house in Maryland as a first-time home buyer. I definitely recognize the perks, opportunities you're looking at later to house hack it. When I move to my new office, I might probably share a little bit more of my collection and things like that, just some wines and scotches that I like. So yeah, Justin Goodman saying Puerto Rico. Good question. I don't know where Puerto Rico is going. Does Puerto Rico even, I don't think they get electoral college votes on that. So I think they can vote, but not that. Miss Actor saying, I'm wondering, is Saxo going well with the TradingView platform? Honestly, I don't know. I don't trade off TradingView. I use TradingView as my charts, but I do not trade off TradingView. So I love TradingView as my charts, but I don't trade with them. If I'm going to trade, I'm going to execute directly with the broker. Because you're always going to get a better connection. It's going to be faster. That's what I want to execute with. So if I were you, I'd recommend, if you're going to trade with Saxo, I'd recommend trading direct, like executing with Saxo. You can use something else for your charts if you want to, but execute with Saxo. I think TradingView is more compact, precise, and more tools. As a chart, I think it's the best on the planet. Best charting service on the planet. That's why I got the, whatever the highest end subscription is, Premier Pro or whatever it is, that's what I have. They're constantly updating. Yeah, I agree with you on that. Have you made a guess on who's going to win? Yes, horseshoes. I shared that earlier. I'm leaning towards a Biden victory. So I think I said, Texas go. Have you made a guess? Yeah. So I said, I think if I had to make this bet 100 times, I think this election, I think Biden wins probably like 60, maybe 65% of the time. I do think there are many scenarios that Trump can win. But yeah, I do that. Justin saying, no, they can't vote. Just saying, if you're going to move away from taxes, go to Puerto Rico. Yeah, Puerto Rico gets whacked, though, with hurricanes, though, and I'm not a fan of that. You give your right to vote, but you avoid the taxes. That's true. Thanks for Horseshoe saying, thanks for your round for you. You're welcome. Yeah, I actually, so if you're missing the earlier predictions, my predictions were, I think Biden is going to win. I think it's going to be challenging, but I think he's going to win. And my lowest estimate was 290 electoral college votes. How are things going with Texas? Race is getting tighter in Texas now. It's a 40,000 vote difference, and there's 57%. So that's getting tighter. Florida looks like I think you can pretty much call that for Trump. North Carolina is still 130,000 away for Joe Biden. That's very favorable. And 9% reporting in, and that's what, 270,000 for Joe Biden. That's still early. And 57% in Ohio. Yeah, I mean, thus far, the way it's looking, it's leaning towards Joe Biden. It's leaning that direction. TradingView is fantastic here. It's the best. It's the best. I think if I was opening a new brokerage, I think I'd want to create my own charts, but I would consider integrating the TradingView charts directly into the platform. That would be easiest. It's such a good charting package. I think the other two best charting packages out there in terms of platforms, I would probably say Saxo Trader Pro has really good charts. And XStation 5, XTB's XStation 5, I think those are the top 3 charts out there in terms of charts. I think those are the best out there. Yeah. Okay. Any last questions before we wrap it up? Anybody want to make a final prediction or call before they I will say I have gotten a lot of spam phone calls from like votes and stuff like that. There was some grade A BS going on. There were some robocalls going out there telling people the election's tomorrow. How is that legal? Like robocalls going all over the US saying, oh, the election's tomorrow, to stop people from voting. What the F? Like, how is that even illegal? I don't understand that. I wish I could get higher leverage in the US with the TradingView compatible broker. Rosalind, I get, if you have a low capital account, you generally want more leverage, but remember, leverage is a double-edged sword. It's a tool. If you know how to use it well, then it's favorable. If you don't know how to use it well, then it's not favorable to lever up. You always have to be cautious with leverage. My suggestion, Rosalind, however you pronounce it, my apologies, is try and build up the capital in your account so that you keep building it up so that you become less and less reliant upon the leverage itself. Like when I trade US stocks, if you trade stocks in the US, you get 2 times leverage. And if you are day trading, then you get 4 times the leverage. And if somebody does it well, you should be able to manage just fine with that low level of leverage, even with $1,000 or $5,000 account. I mean, I don't have direct experience, so it's hard for me to say that, but you should be able to manage with that kind of leverage and, a decent sized account. If you are able to find the best opportunities, and that takes time and skill to learn that, but that's with the right skills, you should become less reliant upon leverage and more reliant upon your skills. Leverage is a tool and a crux that you'll need it in the beginning, but you shouldn't need it as you get better and better. So yeah, let's see. We're starting to get some results in, I think. Wisconsin's just coming in, 1% reporting. I still don't understand this Kansas thing. This blows my mind. If he somehow takes Kansas, I will not eat my shorts, but yeah, I would probably drink a scotch on the live stream if that happens. If he takes Texas and Kansas, I might do a scotch on the live stream. Speaking of which, I have my scotch back there. So I have a scotch cabinet on my wall, which is pretty awesome. Got to have something to celebrate with. Okay. Rishab Srivastav. What about crude oil? So Rishab, the rule is if you want me to examine an instrument symbol, time frame, and 1 cent description, bullish or bearish, and I will analyze it. That's our general rule. Rosalind saying, thanks for the feedback on the leverage. You're welcome. Justin says, thanks for your time, man. I'll be in the course soon. Good. I'll see you there soon as well. I'll be there tomorrow morning, obviously live trading. So how are we doing on time? Okay, 6:11. All right, I'll wait for Rishab to come back with that information, and then I will be wrapping it up. Nothing's really moving in ES. Bitcoin is just chilling. Yeah, mixed results right now. If Florida was going all blue or all, and Florida and Texas were going all blue or all red, I think you would see an S&P surging. But the fact that they're mixed, it's S&P mixed. So not surprising. Same with gold, and euro dollar is bleeding to the downside. It looks like euro dollar wants to lean more to the downside. That's kind of what I'm getting right now. If I had to make a speculation, I think there's more downside for the euro dollar right now. And nothing's really changed on the indices here. Hang Seng is light. Aussie ASX 200 is down 7%. It was down 0.8% last we checked. And Nikkei is live at 1.6%. Okay. Let me see if I see if there's any other. Just want to check and see what's going on. Okay, so I'm not seeing. I like the site for their finance stuff, but man, they are so pro-Trump. It's kind of disgusting. I just wish they weren't so pro-Trump. It's just become so pro-Trump. It's too bad. They're a good finance blog, but man, they've really shifted heavily pro-Trump lately. Okay, I am going to wrap it up. So with that being said, I want to thank you all for coming for the election here. I hope you guys learned something from it. I hope you got some good trade ideas from it. To recap some of the main things that we had talked about. So remember, these are the 4 different scenarios. The best for the markets would be either a Biden win with the Democratic Senate or a Trump win with a Republican Senate. I think those would be the best for the S&P 500. If you want just markets, S&P 500 markets as a whole. If you can come on in, it's fine. Just don't get on camera. I think if you have any mixed with Biden winning and the Republicans keep the Senate, or Trump wins and the Democrat takes the Senate, then I think you're going to have a more risk-off type environment. In those situations, I would favor gold. I would favor Bitcoin. I would be short the US dollar. I would look for a risk-off type event. And I'd look for mixed results from the S&P. If you have a contested election, then that would be short-term bearish, and you'd want to be long volatility, long the VIX. I think if you have a blue wave or you have a full red wave, then I think you'd want to be short volatility in that situation. You want to be long risk. So that's kind of the summary of how I'd be looking to trade it and how I'd be looking to play it. So with that being said, I hope you enjoyed this. If you like this here, make sure to smash that like button. We really appreciate it. Tells YouTube, hey, we found this beneficial. We learned something from it, and they give us the love back to us. So it helps us with the YouTube algorithm. We really appreciate it. If you have any questions, leave comments on there on the video after it's done. And also thank you all for coming, and to our members and our non-members for your first time here, welcome. It's good to see you here. So with that being said, I hope you enjoyed this. I look forward to seeing you. I will see you guys live on Friday morning, 8 o'clock Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern for a follow-up webinar. So have a great night, everyone. Be safe, be healthy, and I will see you next time. Take care, everyone.